What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we are in the shop and we are working on putting gears in the Gladiator. So as you can see here, I already have it up on the lift. I have the rear tires removed. I'm going to work on getting the rear 513s installed. I went a little bit deeper for the 37s because this is a 6-speed manual transmission. So to be honest with you, whenever I put the 37s on, I thought I was going to have a little bit more time before I would have to regear. But with the manual transmission and 37s, this thing was pitiful. I couldn't hardly get out of fourth gear going down the road. And whenever I would, stop and go traffic, I would have to, go ahead and rev it on up and let out the clutch, and it was just, it's not something that I would recommend. So I'm just going to go ahead and re-gear. I've had these tires on about a week. I went ahead and ordered the gears, and I'm also going to be throwing a lunchbox locker in the front, but we'll go over that. And then the TORQ locker for the front, they went ahead and sent it. I had it in my hands probably in 2 or 3 days. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rear drive shaft out and take the diff cover off. And another thing, this really isn't going to be a how to regear your Gladiator video. This is just how I do it. Everybody kind of sets up gears in different ways. Personally, I have never put gears in a JLU or a Gladiator, so this is going to be a learning experience for all of us. So I'm really not too familiar with the axle disconnect system on these. I know I'm going to have to be taking out the axle shafts and everything like that in order to get the carrier out. So that's going to be kind of a learning experience. So this is what I'm going with. I'm going with Revolution 513s. And you can see here's the part number. This is the master overhaul kit. You always want to do an overhaul kit whenever you do gears. And then there's the part numbers for the gears that I'm running. And then there is the TORQ locker that I'll be running in the front. I'm probably going to be leaving the rear open for now. I'm going to be doing a selectable locker in the rear. But for now, I'm just going to leave it open just because this isn't my dedicated rock crawler or wheeler. So I'm going to be running the Spicer diff covers front and rear. And then this is the rear ring and pinion 513s to match the front. And then the master overhaul kit for the rear. So this is really cool. I got all this for less than $1,000. The TORQ locker, it was like $350 or something. I'll put a link in the description below on this. But the overhaul kit and the ring and pinions, I think I paid right at $975, which is a really good deal for gears on these Jeeps. And also I did go ahead and take the rear sway bar off because it goes right along the diff cover. So obviously that's going to have to be relocated for now. But yeah, I'm excited. So I'm a little OCD when it comes to stuff like this, but I like to mark everything so that when the drive shaft goes back in, it goes back in the exact same way that it came out. So you can see my red painter's tape. My red paint pen right here, and I also did it at the transfer case. So this is just a T50 Torx bit head that I'm using. So let me get the sensor out of the way here, and then I've already cracked these 18 millimeters loose. Getting these off. So there's 4 of these you have to take off. So once those 4 bolts come off, the axle shaft will come out, and it's very heavy, just like so.
Oh, Hercules, 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 Hercules.
So now I'm going to repeat the process on the passenger side and get the passenger side axle shaft out. You saw me mark where these caps go right here, so whenever I put these back in, I want to make sure that they are going in the same exact way. And so now I'm going to take a 15 millimeter socket and go ahead and zip these off. I'm just going to start pulling on this, and I'm going to make sure that I don't drop any shims. It is very important that you keep up with the shims and that they don't just fly out around the shop. Come on, baby. Whew. Caught that one. Just like that. So, got the pinion out, and the thing looks really good. So there's the crush sleeve. We'll be replacing that. Well, we'll be replacing all of this, but you definitely don't want to reuse crush sleeves. So I have all of the races punched out. Oops, sorry. I have all the races punched out for the bearings, and I just used a brass punch to get those out. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and take this ring, all these ring bolts off. Alright, so it is the next day, and I took off work a little early, and I have been letting this pinion just kind of chill, literally, in the freezer with my meats. Oh yeah, nice and chilled. That looks kind of funny. So I've got that right there. Wow, that's really cold. Just like on the factory setup, I'm going to take the new bearing and plop it right on. Aha! Alright, so I had to let my camera battery charge a little bit. I went ahead and got the bearings off of the carrier. I've just got to clean that up before I do anything else to it. And also, you can see right here, I did put the outer race in. I just used a race tool and a bearing tool and just tapped that in. So it's pretty interesting in the JLUs and the Gladiators axles is you go ahead and put the bearings on and then the shims go on the outsides. So it's not like I have to keep taking the bearings on and off to set my gear pattern to where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and press these on with the press over here, and then we will probably get the ring gear on. So as you saw, I was spinning this bearing all the way down as I pressed it on, and that way I just made sure there was no binding or no issues, because you don't want to, you know, take pressure off of this and then it's at the very bottom seated and it doesn't want to spin. So it spins pretty good. I did use my old race to get it all the way on, and so now I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side right here, the smaller bearing. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do is get the ring gear on, and I probably should have put the ring gear on before, but it'll be alright. I've done it both ways, and thank goodness this just goes right on. You don't have to beat it or anything like that, so that alone right there is a blessing. So I'm going to flip this over. I'll line up my holes, and I'm just putting this one in right now just to hold it. So it does have yellow Loctite, and that's the oil resistant Loctite, but I'm still going to put some red on there. So now I'm going to take this one back out, Loctite that down. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this on up. And then I'm going to get one started on the opposite side. Alright, so now I'm going to go all around and get these all in and Loctited. Now I'm going to be torquing these down to around 150 foot-pounds. You can see here I have my factory shim and I have my factory race for the pinion depth, I should say. And you see that one just slides right in, just like that. So I'm going to be starting with the factory shims just to get me in the ballpark of where I want to be. I'm going to be sliding this all in. I'm not putting that crush sleeve in just yet, so I'm going to put the yoke on the back here. And I'm going to be using the old pinion nut. I'm going to get that started. So I've got this in here. I've just got it to where it is not rocking back and forth, and there is just a little bit of resistance. So now I'm going to get the carrier in, and I'll be using the factory shims just to, like I said, just get us in the ballpark. so I'm gonna come right here and see this one single dot that I put on here, so I know that that is numero uno. I'm just gonna put this on while I try to get that shim over there in, because I do not want this to follow my toe. All right. The backlash really doesn't feel that bad. So we'll have to measure that. So I've got 0.8 on my backlash, which isn't bad. So it's supposed to be from 6 to 10 on these 5-cut gears. So I'm gonna try a pattern. So I know it's not gonna be right, but this is really the only way that won't lie to you. It's either gonna be good or bad. So I like to paint like 3 teeth at a time. That way I have plenty of other real estate, so when I mess up I can always, you know, come up here, go to the back side. So I'm gonna spin this around. Oh, come on. I'm gonna send it back through. And I'm trying just to put a little resistance against it as I spin. I'm not fighting myself, but just putting a little tension on it. You can see here, this is a pretty acceptable pattern. I'm going to, let me pull it up just a little bit. So I'm going to check a few more things, and if they all check out, then I'm going to tear all this back down, and we're going to get this back together, and then I'll recheck everything, retorque everything, and then, you know, repaint and check my pattern. And if that's good, then we're going to call this good. So sick. It's not bad. Little update, my dad came out here and he helped me just kind of hold everything and make sure I didn't drop anything on my toes. But I got my backlash set right at 8 and got a good pattern. I feel confident about it. I'm good with it. So we're gonna call it. We are going to now, I say we, but y'all are going to watch me put this back together. I'll show you the diff cover that I got right here. That'll be going on there. So there's all my, kind of got crazy with the shims, just making sure I had to double check everything, and I did set, I did buy one of these just for this job, the inch-pound dial, and I've got it set right at 20. Ooh, that looks nice. everything is back together on the rear. Got the sway bar on, got the brakes on, and I made sure to get in my little sensors so everything will be nice and happy. But I'm gonna let this sit up probably 24 hours before I put any fluids in there. And then so what I like to do is I like to put my RVT on and just get them kind of tightened down just enough to where the RVT kind of protrudes out just a little bit. And then I like to let it sit 24 hours, and then I come back and I tighten them up just a little bit more, fill it up with fluid, and it never leaks. So now it is on to the front. So last night I finished getting the rear all back together, and now I believe this one's going to be the beast, solely because this has the 2-piece axle shaft in it, and I'm putting a locker in, so I believe this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. But I'm going to go ahead and start breaking this down, that way I can go ahead and get started, because I'm really ready to get this done with. So I've got the front drive shaft disconnected already, and now I'm going to get the tie rod out of the way. I went ahead and took the cotter pins out, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop. I'll probably go ahead and take the steering stabilizer off at the same time. That way I don't have to mess with this. Just take it off from here. It's just kind of easier. That way I just plop it back on all at the same time. I'm going to take this little skid plate off of this axle disconnect.
Idiot.
So I'm just going to slide that axle shaft over and just make sure that you put this back in the same exact way. that it came out. So, all right. So there is a snap ring that has to come off, and this is a tool that comes with the TORQ locker. And I think you just kind of give it a couple of love taps.
Just tap it in. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy.
Alright, so I did get that C-clip out. That was kind of a pain in the butt. Now I can go and get that axle shaft all the way out of the way. And I'm just going to put that right there. And that right there. So now we can get the actual differential out. Alright, so I'm just holding on to these shims. That way I don't have to chase them around the shop. Alright, so there's the differential. So I have the pinion and the races knocked out. I went ahead and sprayed everything with some brake cleaner, and it's pretty clean in there. But so now what I plan on doing is I'm going to go ahead and take the bearings off and get the ring gear off this. I've got the carrier all broke down. I used my bearing puller, got the bearings off. So now I'm ready to take the spider gears out in order to get ready for this TORQ locker. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to locate the pin right there, and I'm going to tap that out. I went ahead and I got the cross pin out, and that is going to allow me to get the spider gears out. These useless things. And they do have washers on the back, so make sure those come out too. You just want to get everything out, that way you can just kind of inspect everything. Let's see, there's the washers. Oh, don't want to separate, see? Alright, so then you have a completely empty carrier. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on this whole thing. You do not want much, just enough to make it sticky. I'm going to put a little bit on these. So these are the old washers. I'll be reusing these. So. I'm just going to go ahead and just do a good coating all around. That may be a little too much on that one. Oh yeah. So I just like to go ahead and just get them all around, but really you probably don't even have to do this much. All right. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put the washer on. Go ahead and slide this on in. And what that grease does, it just kind of helps everything kind of just sit there so you can do other stuff. That's more or less the purpose of that. Alright, slide these in. I'm trying to get it where y'all can see. So I'm going to take this one right here and slide that in. Just kind of get that to match up there. And then I'll take this one, and you want to line it up to where the cross pin can go in. And it'll fall right into place, like so. And you see that little spot right there, right here? That's where these little springs go. So hopefully that won't fall all to pieces. So I'm going to take a spring and put one right here, and hopefully I won't lose it. And I'm going to go ahead and put probably too much grease on these, but I don't want these falling out because I still have to put the ring gear on and I still have to put the bearings on. Probably should have done that first, but that's not how we do stuff here. I've got to separate these and kind of squeeze this in. Alright, so there's one in right there, and you'll hear it click whenever it seats in there just right. And I'm just going to put a little more holding grease on that. Now roll her on over. And I'll take this and I'll do the same thing just to separate it. All right. So that's it. I'm going to put a little bit more holding grease on that. It's probably not going to do anything, but it just makes me feel better. So now I'm going to line up this hole. I'm going to line up the hole right there. And then I'm going to just grease up the cross pin here. And I'm going to send this in this way right here. Just like that. And so I have my cotter pin, so I have my roll pin hole right here, and I have my new roll pin, and I'm just going to tap that in, and then we'll be done with the locker setup. Alright, so I have everything all together and lockers in, looking good. So now I'm going to get the bearings and the ring on here.
And the next day,
A little update for you. I have a pattern on here that I'm happy with. And you can see I have the locker in, and so now all I really have to do is put the plug in the bottom, and then I'm going to put some RVT around and put a diff cover on, get the axle shafts in, brakes on, get the drive shaft back in, and we're going to call this completed. Alright, so I know it's kind of close quarters up under here, but I am going to get that axle shaft back inside of the carrier somehow. Slide that in. Ooh, I felt that engage, so that's good. This snap ring or C-clip goes right there. I'm going to see if I can do it with my hands. I've never done this before. Ugh. This is probably going to hurt. Oh, okay. Yeah, that wasn't bad. I'm definitely going to hold on to this tool. So shout out to TORQ's Lockers for sending this right here, because that was a lifesaver. I couldn't imagine trying to attempt this without that. So there is a little bit of sand in here so whenever I took this cover off, some sand did find its way in here, so I'm going to clean that out really good, just like I did the diff covers. I mean, just like I did the differentials, because you definitely don't want any grit or anything inside of there. That's why whenever I do stuff like this, I don't like to wear gloves. I don't like to wear gloves anyway, but I don't like to wear gloves because I want to be able to feel grit. So if I pick up something, like if I pick up my ring gear, or if I pick up, you know, or if I'm pushing this axle shaft and I feel grit, then I know I need to stop what I'm doing and clean it up before I do anything else. And with gloves on, you can't feel it, and you just send in a dirty axle shaft or something like that. So the next thing that I'm going to do is get this, get the CAD system back on. And so I'm just going to slide this on to the axle shaft in here. Come on. And I'm putting this on the exact way that it came off, just like that. And so that fork right here will slide right onto that, and then it lines right up with the holes. And so now I'll just get my bolts in and torque those down. And I'm just using the existing gasket. I just kind of cleaned the surface up and made sure the gasket was still good. And it was. So I probably should have put some RVT on it, but if it leaks, I'll just take it back off and clean it later. So once those 10mm bolts are torqued down, you just pop this bad boy in, and she is good to go. The next thing that I'm going to do is get the axle shaft in. See, I got the little stubby passenger side right here, and so I'm going to make sure this is all good and clean and send her on in. I have everything set back the way it was. I have the diff cover on. I have the tie rod on. Got that semi-torqued down, if that's even a thing. And I just got to get I'm going to torque these down whenever it's back on its own weight. But you might say, hey, you didn't put the upper back on. And there's a reason for that. So a couple of videos ago, you saw me install these TerraFlex spacers on top of this Mopar lift, and I wasn't happy with it. So I ended up getting some Clayton upper control arms to help out with my caster angles, and it still was not good. I feel like with a newer vehicle like this, it should drive a lot better than what it was, and I just could not get the caster of what I wanted, and I'm 99.9% sure it was all because of those spacers on top of that spring. It's not TerraFlex's fault or anything like that. It just did not want to work with this application. And I think a lot of it has to do with the geometry, angles and everything like that. So check out the table behind me. So I really wasn't happy the way this thing was driving with the spacers on top of the Mopar lift right here. So we're about to change that. And that's going to be in another video. I'm probably going to end this one right here. I don't want to get into too terribly long. And I know this really wasn't a how-to video on how to put gears in. It was just more or less how I put them in. So basically all I did was I took the, as you saw in the video, I took the factory shims and measured the depths from it and just went from there, and it pretty much put me in the ballpark of where I needed. I did have to change them up, a couple of 1/1000ths of an inch, but that's just how it is. And I got the patterns that I know they're very acceptable. I know they'll be strong, and I'm 100% confident in the patterns that I got out of both the front and the rear. I'm satisfied with how the locker went in and everything like that. But anyway, I really appreciate y'all watching me. If you would, hit the like button and the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss out on the suspension system that we're going to be throwing on this Gladiator. And just let me know in the comments what you think of the shop truck. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Honestly, I didn't really care for Gladiators until I got one, so I don't know. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one.
Get out of here! Go on, get out of here!